Well, hello, and welcome to Marching Band Methods. This is going to be one of the strangest ways I've ever taught marching band methods, but I think it's just kind of goes with the flow right now as far as what everybody's having to do. So, the structure of this class, I'm going to try to take you. The first few modules will be establishing your philosophy, knowing who you are, knowing who your school is, and knowing where you're going, and then we're basically and some knowledge. So we're gonna, duh, but we're gonna take it from guard and percussion and some of the unique bits of knowledge that aren't particularly musical that you're not going to gain in other places. So we'll get that, and then we'll start in on what a normal year is going to be like. And quite frankly, that's how I'm going to structure the class as far as the form of about the last two-thirds of the class is going to be. Okay, so this module is going to be the month of May and June. What are you doing? So hopefully you find it helpful. I've been teaching this class for a long time. Not sure I've ever taught it the same way. The one thing I will tell you about this class, it is not a drill writing class. There's too much stuff to cover without delving into drill. Now, we will dive into philosophies of drill, kinds of pictures, kinds of forms, how we move from thing to another, but the actual nitty gritty of Pieware we're going to touch very briefly on. If that is something you are interested in, I am more than willing to teach an individual study for a semester on how to do that. It's just such a different world and such a different idea and such a different skill set that I think it's better to teach it as a focused thing. Now, the reality is most high school band directors now do not arrange their own shows. They do not write their own drill. They have others do it. I, as a person who both writes drills and arranges and has always done so, have a certain lack of respect for people who do that. I would prefer to do it myself. I think it's part of what we do, and I think it's important that we can do. Even if we buy from other people, I still buy arrangements from other people. Matter of fact, most of our Pride big shows are all arranged by other people. That's more of a time consideration and sometimes an expertise consideration than it is because I can't do it, because I can. But I do think because I can arrange, I have a good idea, and I do write drill, that I have a really good idea of what makes a good arrangement and good drill. So please understand that those are two skill sets you probably won't get a lot of here just because of all of the bigger issues and director-centric issues that we need to deal with, but that I highly encourage that you spend some time and ask for help, because I'm always willing to help you. I just want to be able to do it in a manner that is more focused upon what we're going to be doing. Anyway, I think the first and foremost, the thing to remember is, for a lot of you who have been in the Pride of New Mexico, is that a high school band is not a college band. And you're going to say, duh. I mean, we all know how stupid that statement is. But I think a lot of people, when they get out, they live within this paradigm of college marching bands so much, and the paradigm of the people who make the music and the materials that we have, that a lot of times making that adjustment to a high school situation and a very, 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 very different set of expectations is it's a shock to some people. So I think the first thing you need to do is, when you come to this or when you come to this class, or when you view my videos, or we're doing whatever we want to call it right now, I think it is very important that you separate what necessarily I do on a daily basis as far as the materials that we prepare and how we prepare them from what you're going to do. Now, that's not to say that the process in which we go to learn the product isn't very similar. I teach college and rehearse the university the same way I rehearsed my high school group. And I think it's important, and I think the rehearsal methods behind it are really, really, really important. But just understand that the product isn't the same. And I think a lot of people, when they take over, I've seen this in young teachers a lot. Either they come from a very, very strong program. So let's say you're coming from Hanks High School. Okay, that's where you graduate high school. You can't have the same expectation at a Deming or an Alamogordo or somewhere of that sort that you would have at a Hanks. And I think making that parallel is very, very hard for young teachers. And I think it's important that you understand that you're not going to be able to do what you did in high school. Your high school director, if you were influenced and you thought it was a good program, or you think it's a good program, or was a good program, um, you need to understand that you take the influences from there, the expectations from there, the standards from there for your own self and your own teaching. But you're gonna have to make the adjustment for a while on what your expectations are for that program that you're teaching. Rome wasn't built in a day. The pride here when I took it over was not at where I want my own situation to be. And so I've spent the last few years making those adjustments and making those expectations and building that culture, and you will too. So as we move through, I'm more concerned that you realize what you can do than I tell you what you should do, because the reality is that your community is going to dictate your reality. So I can tell you whatever I want to, but I'm full of crap, because until you see what that community you take over is and what the possibilities are there, then you're not really going to know what you're going to do. In high schools, they have very unique, some of this could be probably misconstrued. Sorry, I'm having some technical issues. Misconstrued as being, maybe, I don't know. There are realities of what you're going to have to deal with. If you're teaching in a Deming, or you're teaching in a very blue-collar town, which means, more manufacturing usually tends to mean less money, people who actually work for a living, you're going to have a lot more limitations as far as what you can do with things like that, because they don't have a lot of disposable income in communities like that. There's also expectations that those students have to work. So the amount of rehearsals and the amount of time that they are going to be able to devote and commit to your thing is going to be reduced. So you're going to have to realize that, and you have to work within the confines of those situations, because you can't change them. So figure out the things you can't change, and then figure out a way to either work around them or work with them. That whole opportunities, make your obligations your opportunities, and there are. My first job was at a community much like that. They were all either farmers or worked in the egg factory, which, yes, chickens do still make the eggs, but they would make egg products for mayonnaise and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, but my limitations there were such that I couldn't do all of the high level shows. It was a very good marching band and had a very good reputation. We won most of what we competed with, what that counts for, but I did have limitations to what I was able to do, just because of the socioeconomics of the community. So you've got to kind of know that, and you've got to know and realize what the confines you work. Now, saying the blue collar thing, at the same time, I've very few places, with the exception of maybe here, frankly, have I had students who had such a good work ethic, who had such a good put your nose to the grindstone, let's get this stuff done. And parents that were the same way. They may not be able to afford to buy you what you wanted, but they would work their ass off to build or make their students do what you wanted. So it's a toss-up. My father has a great saying that he uses, but he stole from an Eagles song. It is, every form of refuge has its price. So I also taught at the richest school in Iowa. I taught at a school that's just insane and could buy anything I wanted, and we could go anywhere I wanted. But at the same time, those students know that, and those students know, and not only do they have the opportunities in band that their parents' incomes afford them, they also have opportunities outside of band that their parents' monies afford them, and so therefore they're not always as committed. They're still good kids. Kids are kids. But you have to kind of understand that is going to change. Factors when starting a new job. Like, there are many kinds of marching bands, and that's what this module is going to concentrate a lot on, are two factors. What kinds of marching bands are there, and what competition means, and how your view of competition should educate your view of other things that happen. So there are, let's see, when factors are starting a new job. Let's do that. Got this all written down. You got to figure out what they've done before. So if they've done just marched out in a block and played Louie Louie and marched off in a block, if you try going out there with a 50 set highly competitive show based on the color blue, they're probably going to freak out a bit. What's the cultural capacity of what they've done? This is important too, and it's you shouldn't view this as a good nor a bad. I mean, if you're taking over, let's use for example Artesia. Artesia is a school out east here that's very much an oil town. If you were to try to go out there and play something, a show based on Gershwin or Heartbeat or some kind of just esoteric, arcane titled show, they probably aren't going to buy into it so much. Now, if you go out there with a show that does touch on themes that they understand, you could do a show on oil. I've seen a wonderful show on oil by Broken Arrow, but that's still going to be above what they can do right now. You need to find where the community's at, where the culture is at, and if they don't have a whole lot of classical music in that town, if they don't have a whole lot of focus on the arts in that town, you're probably going to struggle a little bit if you try to do a show that's based on that. So find something that they can identify with, and then get what you want musically out of that theme. If that means you're playing a show based on Hank Williams Jr., fine. You can make a great show out of Hank Williams Jr. You just have to think a little bit outside the box. Financial resources, obviously. Ain't got money, you ain't got like backdrops and electronics and all of those sorts of things. That even affects drill. So if you don't have sound reinforcement for your soloists, or you don't have anything of that sort, you have to make sure that you put them in places and write your drill in a way that helps your balance. So understand that too. And then staff resources. That's a funny one that nobody ever thinks about. I mean, you think about Hanks, you think about Iñate, you think about here. We have resources for staff that most places don't have. Let's go back to Artesia again. How many marching percussion experts do you think there are in Artesia? How many guard experts? How many marching fundamentals people? Your staff is going to be limited, and what staff you can get are going to most likely have their same philosophy based in the community you're in. So you're not going to get somebody who is a top-rate body movement person in Artesia, because the band has never been a top-rate body movement band. And that's not a good nor bad. It's just it's it. So you've got to really think about what your resources are too. Sometimes you'll get really lucky. Sometimes you'll get somebody who moved in from somewhere else, who went to school in a Hanks or went to school in a Iñate, that is living in Artesia and is still passionate about marching band. That's possible. Probable is you get what I'm saying. So you really have to, the factors that go into this are not just your abilities, it's your resources. You could be the corps director for Santa Clara Vanguard, but if you take a job in Deming, it ain't going to turn into Santa Clara Vanguard. So you have to think about what the best option for your community is. Next thing. The videos posted in this module are all based upon they're different examples of marching band. We think marching band is marching band. It is not. There are HBCUs, there are Big Ten, there are BOA style, a lot of different styles, a lot of different philosophies. Most of those styles and philosophies actually reflect who they're performing for, rather than the students who are performing the show. So again, exactly what we talked about with our community. If you live in a predominantly black community in the South, when you say marching band to them, they think Grambling, they think Southern, they think Florida A&M. They think of all those bands, and so if you come out there with some BOA style highfalutin art thing, They're not going to understand, and the students aren't going to buy in. So you do need to make sure you understand the different kinds of marching bands that people may be used to. So a video here, there's an HBCU band. There's a Big Ten band. Now I say Big Ten band. I hate the Big Ten, but it was the original. Illinois was the original marching band. Really, Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State. All of them are in the Big Ten, unfortunately. So they established kind of a style that's an amalgamation of military style and popular style. Now, you'll see that is mostly pop tune based, but the style they march, the uniforms they wear, how they program is very collegiate. You're also going to see step 2. I'll try to do a high school on that one, but step 2 is almost a uniquely historical thing that's based in East Texas right now. It's all centered around Texas A&M. And you'll see that it does go back very much to the roots of marching band. I had a good friend that used to yell at the Texas A&M band and say, "Hey, Texas A&M, the 1930s want their band back." I mean, it is very steeped in tradition. I think it's a good thing. I think it's boring, but I do think it's a good thing. And I think if you see that style of band and then you watch the Big Ten band, you'll see the influences. Basically, the Big Ten is just the step 2 bands that actually play modern music. And then the HBCUs, you'll see how they took marching band and then their style of dance, their traditional music, those sorts of things, and really adapted that same thing. The Big Ten stuff, unfortunately, is really kind of where everything comes from. And then you'll see a BOA band, which is apples and oranges. I mean, to anything else, BOA is what you probably think of when you think of high school marching band if you're from this area. No, there are not really BOA bands, exception of a couple, but they're all influenced by that. And so that's what probably you're going to have more than anything. I actually disagree with a lot of that, and a lot of communities try to have that shouldn't. And they don't really reflect their community nor their students, and therefore I don't think they achieve what they could excellence-wise because their students don't really buy in. It's so out of the realm of their normal day-to-day that I think a lot of times they have a hard time making that transition. So you'll see that, and then you got to think about competition versus non-competition. This is a really touchy subject for a whole lot of people, and it's kind of like talking about religion. There's really no right nor wrong. There's what you believe. And I think that everybody can find a whole lot negative with competition. Same time, I think people can find a whole lot of wrong with the non-competitive. So I want you to kind of think about that a little bit. My philosophy is that I hold them to a musical standard regardless of what band or medium that you're performing in. Now, the expectations artistically cannot quite be the same outside as it is inside, just due to the space, volume requirements, etc., etc., etc. You would think you would, but your dynamic range is very limited when you're outside, just because the venue in which you're playing. A concert ensemble, you're going to have a lot more variation in that. A lot more nuance is going to be able to be heard. Marching band isn't about nuance. And I think you need to understand my philosophy is that marching band is not art. I'm sorry, even drum corps. Drum corps tries and probably gets the closest. Marching band is not art, it's entertainment. And I think we have to differentiate between that. Us as artists, me as an artist conductor, me as an artist percussionist, I view marching band, or I view my music as an expression of myself and an extension of myself. But don't get caught up and so arrogant that you think that music is only about you and about art, because music is not. Music is about entertainment. Music is about, it touches emotional things that we all talk about, we readily talk about, but we don't realize that to touch the emotional being of someone else, or emotional bank of somebody else, it's got to be something that they understand. I mean, Stravinsky just blows me away. I love to listen to Stravinsky because my mind is just, and my heart is, but you play Stravinsky for my mother and she is going to say it sounds like shit. And so you've got to really think about, it's great. I could recite poetry in Hebrew to you, and if none of us understood Hebrew, it wouldn't matter. So you've got to really think about what you're communicating to people, how you're communicating it to people. And anyway, that's pretty much what this module is about. It's kind of trying to figure out, figuring out your own heart on competition. It will change, and your own philosophy about how you believe in marching band, and what you believe marching band is good for. For me, marching band is great for entertainment, but it's more important at the high school level to build musical skills, because a scale is a scale is a scale, and intonation is intonation is intonation. That it has all those fundamental skills that we deal with, and it couples students with this team ideal, which I think is really important. Now, my last little thing here, where is it? There it is. My last little thing is, there's no books for this course. All the books suck. I've used them all. I hate them. So we will deal with a lot of original material in here, but I do want everybody to own, sorry, there we go, it's like weird, it's in a mirror, the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You can get it for like $3 used, or you got brand new editions that, the only thing I will say about the newer editions, they tend to be bigger and a little easier to read. But anyway, I want everybody to own this book. This book to me is almost biblical in proportions for leadership. So please make sure you get that. Sorry this video was kind of boring, but I guess better than lecturing in a class. So good luck. As far as how we're doing this, you could please read the syllabus and take the quiz as far as what we're doing for grading wise. I will put one of these out every week. I expect everybody to participate in the discussions. I want to see at least 4 entries on it, and I want them to be smart entries and not just stupid-ass entries, okay? I want you to think about these things. I would much rather get less material from you that was well thought out and well considered than a bunch of bullshit that was written just to put stuff down on a page. So please make sure you understand that with me. Although you may put a lot of it down, if it's BS, I ain't going to count it. And if you've thought about it and it's 2 sentences, most likely I'll be okay with that. So keep that in mind as you're going. All right. Well, I will see all of you in next week's installment. Bye.